Hey everyone, if you're anything like me, then you probably think that if you didn't learn a language, a second language by the time you were 4 or 5 years old, then it's just never going to happen. Trust me, I've been there. I started my language learning journey about 4 years ago, thinking that it's just not possible for adults to learn a second language. If you didn't learn it when you were a kid, you just can't do it now. But I'm so glad to say that I have finally gotten to the point where I can communicate, I can speak, I can have a normal conversation, and it is amazing. I want to share this journey with you. My name is Greg. I started this channel to help people out that are struggling and trying to get past that hump of learning a second language as an adult, or a third language or a fourth language. So I want to go through three things today, especially if you're a beginner, that really helped me out when I first started this journey. But first, volevo dire alcune cose in italiano perché ho pensato molti anni fa che questo viaggio sarebbe molto molto difficile, ma invece è stato molto divertente, molto interessante. Ho iniziato forse 4 anni fa e ho pensato che di nuovo questo sarebbe la cosa più difficile della mia vita, ma ehm, ricordo quando ho iniziato di pensare che volevo imparare una lingua. Ho sentito un uomo che parlava quattro lingue alla stessa volta. Lui parlava in inglese, e poi tedesco, e poi um, francese, e ho pensato, questo è meraviglioso. Quindi ho pensato, è quel punto, ho pensato, sì, voglio imparare una lingua, un'altra lingua. Lo so che faccio gli errori, ma questo è un viaggio per la vita. Ma anyway, so I just wanted to share a little bit there. That was some of the language, some of the Italian that I've learned. Again, I want to share with you those three steps that are really going to propel you forward in that language learning journey. The first thing, and I think the most important thing that you can think of, that you can remember during this journey, is consistency. Consistency really is the key. You have to do something, or you have to decide to do this on a daily basis. This can't be something where you sit down and you say, okay, I've got 2 hours to study. I'm going to knock out 2 hours. I'm going to sit with my head in my book and study, and then take a week off. This is going to delay the process a lot. You're going to pick it up a lot faster if you decide you can do it a little bit every day. It doesn't have to be hours a day. When I first started off, I started doing 2 hours a day. I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning because that was the time that my family was still sleeping. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to learn, I'm going to study for 2 hours a day. And I did this for about 8 months, and it really, really gave me a solid base to start with. But then things changed. I wasn't able to get up at that time. So I shifted my studying habits to I only got in an hour a day. But again, my biggest goal was to make sure that I got at least an hour in every day, at least something in every day. Again, some days this meant sitting down and actively studying, actively listening. Other times it meant trying to get in 30 minutes, but then another 30 minutes when you have downtime of just listening to something. For me, my target language was Italian, obviously. But again, just finding something on YouTube or podcast or something that you can listen to and make sure that your brain is being activated every single day. And I think that's the most important thing, is consistency. If you can, shoot for 30 minutes a day, I think that's a great start. If you can do more, that's even better. If you can't do 30 minutes a day, but you can try to get 30 minutes in every other day and maybe 15 minutes on those off days, that's going to be better than just saying, 10, 15 minutes a day. I know there's apps out there that say learn a language in 15 minutes a day in 6 months and you'll be speaking. You can learn to repeat a few things. You can memorize a few phrases that way, but I really don't think you can interact and have a good conversation with somebody by using an app 15 minutes a day. So the second thing that I want to talk about is listening to something that you enjoy and listening to, again, this is when you're first starting out. Listening is going to be something that's probably the easiest thing to do, but it can be very passive. So if you're spending all of your time doing something else and listening to it and not spending any time actively listening, it can your brain is absorbing it, but you might not get as much out of it. So I would say, again, at the beginning, listening is crucial. I'm going to go through steps later on in other videos talking about the steps that I take now, and it will change. Your journey will change. When you first start out, a lot of it is just listening and understanding what's going on, and then moving into reading, writing, and obviously speaking. Speaking is going to be, everybody says speaking is the hardest, so you'll get there. It just takes some time. But again, the concept behind the listening, it's really important to listen to information that you understand. So I know that doesn't make any sense because you're listening to a language that you don't know. But watching the subtitles or looking at the subtitles in your language while listening to the target language is going to be super helpful. I used to think when I started, if I look at English, if I read the English, then I'm not really learning, I'm just cheating. That's not the case. Your brain needs to know what these sounds are. So it's crucial to know what the information is and to, again, listen to this input or listen to this comprehensible input information that you understand, that your brain can absorb, and do it in short spurts. And we'll talk about the third key in just a second. But I just wanted to say, when I first started listening to Italian, to me, it was like just a river of sound. It was just one, just constant sound. There was no definition of different words. There was no, obviously there was no understanding. And it's such a cool thing to go through this process and to hear what sounds like just this river of sound. All of a sudden, the more and more you listen, you're picking out words. And pretty soon you're understanding a group of words and phrases. And it all just starts to come to life. And it's an amazing thing when this happens, when you start to listen to something in your target language and you're understanding what that is. Super cool thing. Okay, third thing is repetition. repetition. It is super important for your brain to develop and to put the pieces of the puzzle together by listening to the comprehensible input and listening to it several times. This can be, I would suggest 5, 6, up to 10 times. And if you can listen to it more, it might get a little boring. But again, if you're a beginner, this is so important. So if you're listening to a podcast, you listen to something on, find something on YouTube, there's a ton of information. It's going to be a lot more helpful if you listen to 2 to 3 minutes and then go back and listen to 2 to 3 minutes and go back and listen to it again 4, 5, 6, 7 times with those English subtitles, until you can take away the subtitles and then just listen to it and pick up exactly what they're saying. This is going to be so much more helpful than listening to 30 minutes straight of somebody speaking in your target language and then trying to go back and listen to it again, because your brain's just not going to be able to pick up all of that information at once. So again, I'm talking to the people that are just starting out, that are just starting to learn that target language. This is super important. This is key. Again, your brain has the ability to listen and understand and start putting those pieces together if you do this with a lot of repetition. Think about when you were a kid and you're 2 years old or you're 1.5. As a little baby, you're hearing mom and dad, other adults, brother and sister. You're hearing this language. You're not speaking yet. You're just hearing it. Your brain's putting the pieces together. And then at 1.5, 2, 3, you start using the language, and you may not be saying the words correctly. You may not be saying things, the way they should be said, or in the sentence structure that the correct sentence structure, but it's getting out there and you're starting to communicate. And language learning as an adult works the same way. You know what you want to say and it starts to come out, but it might come out a little bit incorrectly. But again, it's a fun journey. It's interesting. And the more and more that you work on it, the better you're going to get. Now, there's some people that are going to say, start speaking immediately. And if you're comfortable with that, do it. I wasn't. I started way too late because I'm kind of a perfectionist, and I thought, okay, I want to learn the language. I want to be perfect at it before I have a conversation and embarrass myself. It didn't work at all. I still embarrassed myself. It was the worst conversation I've ever had. But after failing and failing and failing, it's finally getting to the point where, okay, now I can actually have a conversation with somebody and they know what I'm talking about. But again, I think it relies on comfort level. If you are comfortable with starting out saying, hey, I've only done this language for a month, I'm going to try to speak. Perfect, go for it. But if you're just not comfortable and you're not ready yet for that level, it's okay. Put it on the back burner for a few months. I would say don't wait longer than 8-9 months, because you're never going to get to the point where you feel 100% comfortable. That fear will always be there. So those are the 3 tips right now for beginners. I hope you'll come back and check out some more information. Again, this is a fun journey. You're going to love it. Let's do it together.